Okay, we are live. So we're live for our 80th installment of Nansen Office Hours. Today I have Darren and Nelson with me, and we're going to be looking at how to use Nansen to navigate the current market, which is a bit crazy. So yeah, we're going to have a look at the current state of meme coins. There's been a bit of talk about that over the last few days. And then how to really utilize our smart alerts, as well as the growth of Solana NFTs, which has caused a bit of a controversy, but we're going to have a look at the data because that is a new release for us. So now we have data on all Solana NFTs, which is really exciting. We have over 53,000 collections on there. So yeah, GM, thank you for joining us today. Drop your GMs in the chat. I will have a look in a second. Before we start, if you're new to Nansen Office Hours, every Wednesday we do a Nansen and Chill session, look at new features, answer any questions, so put them in the chat, and we'll hopefully provide some alpha leaks and some advice on like how to deal with this market. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss anything in the future. And if you'd like to try Nansen for free, you can use a link below to sign up to Nansen Lite. So what we're going to start with is Solana NFTs. Someone in the chat says, GM, you heartbreakers. Thank you for that. Okay, so Darren, you're going to kick us off and have a look at Solana NFTs. Put your screen up.
All right. Hey, everyone. GN. So this is Darren, and I'm relatively new to the whole Solana ecosystem as well, but it's pretty cool that we now have that offering, so we're going to check it out together. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to head to NFT Paradise. If you're comfortable with Nansen, then you'll probably know that a lot of the features are pretty similar in the sense that we have wallet profiler, main master, market overview, etc. On the flip side, if you are rather new to Nansen, but you come from Solana, and what we try to provide is really, in a way, like tracking every single address, giving them an entity, telling you who is buying what, the whales and everything. So first off, right, looking at what we have for Solana, we're going to start with trends. And they look pretty healthy, in my opinion. I mean, if you were to, how do I put it, like chart the DeFi tokens, or if you're a DeFi person on ETH, right, you'll probably think like volume is dead and everything is dying. But just a quick glance at the volume per week on Solana NFTs, they do look pretty healthy, right? And while I was looking through this, I actually noticed a sort of seasonal peak at a specific hour, 4 p.m. my local time. So it's probably, yeah, and then like, how do I put it? I guess like every few hours, right, or every like 24 hours or so, there is a mint. And you can see how over here, mints hit 3,290, and then they go back down. So I mean, it seems that it's still pretty healthy in the sense that there's still a lot of like popular mints happening every few days, and users per week as well. They look to be not exactly declining, but sort of holding stable. And one quick note that I noticed, I think it was pretty hyped, right, when OpenSea was saying how they wanted to cover Solana. OpenSea is I think that's turquoise. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's the purple color one, right? And then you can see how they started with some volume, but it's been going down a little. Yeah, I know. I don't know how you guys feel about this. Any like opening thoughts on the whole Solana NFT ecosystem?
Mm-hmm. I think my thoughts, I thought it was interesting as well, you just mentioned. So 4 p.m. your time would be 4 a.m. US, like Eastern time, right? It seems kind of interesting that that's like the highest users per hour. Maybe it's like a mainly like Asian or European demographic. I don't know, that seemed quite interesting. And then I am like happy to kind of see Magic Eden so dominant and not to see OpenSea like completely monopolizing everything. And I know there's been like some controversy of like comparing Solana versus ETH, but I think the point of it, rather than like monetary value, is just like how impressive the Solana like growth has been through NFTs over the last few weeks. So like looking at that graph, you wouldn't really assume that the market looks like, well, it feels like it's imploding over the last few weeks in terms of like everything going down and funds blowing up and stuff. So I think it's really like refreshing to see there's like this new market going on. And I really like the story of Magic Eden as like a side note. The founder, right, was tried something before and then lost all his money, and then
Yeah.
like all in on this and has found great success. So yeah, I really like it. I think all three of us are maybe not super into Solana NFTs now, but I feel like adding this data onto Nansen as well gives like a really nice incentive to like look at it. I spent way more time looking at Solana NFTs over the last week or so than I probably would have. So I think that's really exciting and a great benefit of like joining onto Nansen. Sorry, yeah, I just waffled on there. But yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing, like when you deal with data, is really like we can see the clarity in terms of user per hour, right? Like there is this obvious spike and the obvious trough that you'll be able to identify, right? I wonder if people are able to tweak their strategy according to this, right? Like only list during this period because there might be more liquidity, right? Or trade during this sort of liquid period, right? I think that's one of the best thing that you can do when you're dealing with data, right? Everything is so obvious, and you can start building strategies around it.
Yeah. And just a quick note, I'm not sure, I think we discussed it previously, but I just want to do a quick comparison. I mean, I'm obviously trying to be as unbiased, as possible, but there does seem to be a how do I put it, a bit more of a drawdown for the volume on ETH compared to the volume on Solana. I think one hypothesis I have, right, not sure if you guys agree with that, is that there's actually like entire groups of people that they try to trade NFTs on ETH. They realize that, I mean, a single trade, just approving costs like $20. Then they're like, I don't do this, just move over to Solana. And so like, if you think about it, there's a Venn diagram whereby there are people that, full-time NFT degens on Solana that have never traded on ETH before. So that could be, like one reason or one justification for why there is such a difference. Yeah, but I would say like we probably have to dig a bit more into data to see what justification we have, right, for this difference.
I think Solana has just had a lot more hype around it over the last few weeks as well. Like that phone launch, and it seems to be all over my Twitter timeline as well. So I'm sure that's the same for other people. So naturally, you probably move over. And I think also, like you said, what's important is everyone is like losing money at the moment. And so if you're losing money, you're probably going to go to like a cheaper option. And it's exciting. I think it's just like exciting to do something different. We've been using ETH this whole time. So maybe people feel like it's nice to kind of have a change.
Yeah,
and I think from a user perspective, definitely, Nansen incorporating Solana as one of the chains that we support, it's definitely a breath of fresh air, right? I've spoken to a few founders of different projects on these building on the Solana chain, and they were saying like one of the issues that they are facing in terms of growth is actually the lack of proper data in the space, right? And I think Nansen can really fill that gap in terms of presenting in a way more professional data, right, and focusing on areas so that people have more eyes in terms of what is happening on the ground, right, instead of just blinding, aping because Twitter says so or your favorite influencers say so.
Yeah, and thanks guys for sharing your thoughts on like the overall, I would say macro, quote unquote macro outlook on Solana and ETH. All right, yeah, then I'll go on to explore the features we have. So I think this is pretty interesting. This, how do I put it, like we do have it for ETH as well, I think. We have recent SHIB as well as for most expensive purchases. And I think it acts like a newspaper, right? So it's like it flags interesting transactions or collections that you might want to look at a bit more. So I think now that we're over here, I'm just going to pick SMB. This is one that's pretty familiar to probably almost anyone, right? I think it's one of the earlier collections on Solana, as well as I like this, so I'm going to pick this because I actually like flipped this. I think the mint was like 2.5, and then it went to 100, back to 60, and now it's still, I think, back to 100 or something. So yeah, I'll probably want to explore that a little bit more. So going over to SMB, right? So volume-wise, not. I think it looks okay. Yeah, I like now that we now have a all, right, as well as 90 days if you want a more macro outlook. And I see an interesting volume spike here. I'm going to guess there was some notable news maybe that happened during this week. Although the price-wise, I mean, it feels like it should have gone a bit higher, so not very sure what's happening here. I think something that I would do, right, like especially in this market where you have a ton of free time and everyone is basically shit posting on Twitter, I would actually want to investigate the addresses that bought here and sold, during this this part. Yeah. So I think how I will try to use this feature is to match off-chain and on-chain information. So from the on-chain information, I see there is a pretty significant appreciation in price. Most likely there was a growth catalyst, maybe like some sort of news, some sort of investor, etc. So that's the on-chain side of things, right? And off-chain, I'll look for why it actually happened. Then I want to match it together. I want to see whether was there anyone that managed to front run this, or anyone that seemed to have inside information, maybe. Yeah, I mean, obviously not pointing any fingers, but just curious to explore further. So I think that's something that that we can do. That, how do I put it? Like if you were to use like the normal explorers, it'd be very, very difficult to do. But it's something that is a bit more straightforward in Nansen. Yeah.
I think you can, especially on ETH, you can like filter. I think it's on holders. It might be on one of the tabs we don't have yet on Solana, but you can filter like to see who bought at mint as well and like who's holding. And these people are often like quite interesting to follow, especially like for bigger collections on ETH who like minted Bored Apes. You can see who's still holding, and then you can kind of see if they minted other big collections. So they're also good people to follow. I thought what was cool about this SMB Solana monkey business is like how well they've held price. Obviously, everything's going down in USD value, but it's quite like a flat
yeah, that's true.
price throughout its whole time. And especially because of Solana kind of going in and out of trend, I think it's quite impressive. They were like 20 grand or something. I think they're worth like, how much is 192? $7,000? Is that terrible maths?
Close, pretty close.
Yeah. Around, I thought that was quite cool as well. They're like the leading collection pretty much. Other than that, De Gods or something, they've been doing well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you'd never really find out the data about this until we had this on Nansen. I think Nelson did a really good tweet. Like you can kind of hold off investing on collections, especially when you've used Nansen now for like quite a while. You're so used to it. It feels like kind of wild to like go and buy something without seeing any data, seeing like the amount of, the holders, the floor price, like how easily floor can move, the price support levels, things like this. So now that we have it, it's much more appealing to like go in and buy a Solana NFT, which I haven't done yet, but probably will end up doing. I keep looking, I'm like resisting, but probably will end up buying one.
Right.
Yeah. I think one of the things that a lot of ETH Maxi or AVAX Maxi or Solana Maxi face, right? It's we are very close in terms of like our mindset, right? Like we are so comfortable in a particular chain that we don't look elsewhere, and there are tons of opportunities elsewhere that we are not really capturing, right? So I think it's just something that we have to take the first step. I've got my Phantom wallet up, so I'm just waiting for more data, right? And I'll probably start looking at different stuff and start deploying capital from there.
I think it's worth mentioning as well. We do actually have AVAX NFTs and BNB NFTs as well. We're going to like be developing them to have more marketplaces. We probably don't have time to do that this episode. Once we build that out, I'm sure that we will actually go over them because recently AVAX NFTs have been like also popping up on my timeline. These like small Joes or something, which is what's it called? Trader Joe has an NFT marketplace now. I can't remember what it's called. It's got a really funny name. I'll find out later. It's got a funny name, but yeah, AVAX NFTs have been doing really well recently as well. So I think it's nice just to see other chains doing well, and also a bit of like excitement and move off of Ethereum. Even though I'm like probably an Ethereum maxi, I still like it. JoePeg's Journey has helped us. It's called JoePeg. I thought that was really good. Yeah, and we had a chat with the AVAX team, and they said they have a lot of exciting stuff coming up for AVAX NFTs. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Is that an alpha leak?
huh?
Is that an alpha leak?
It's kind of an alpha leak, not much. Do you want to look at NFT Paradise quickly for Solana, and then we'll move on to looking at coins.
Yeah, before I hit there, just two things I wanted to point out. One was that I think this metric generally I will use it, especially if I'm looking at like a community NFT or some sort of token gated community, mainly because most people want to join a community, then they would ape like a single token, right, or a single NFT. So I think this is something that is extra important when we're looking at community-based NFTs. There was one, and then the second thing that I wanted to share, right, that's pretty cool. Shout out to Elizabeth if you're watching this, but we have sort of started to port labels over from Ethereum. So let me see if I can find an example. Yeah, so I went to breakdown, and over here we have bought it 4572A at protonmail.com on OpenSea. So what we actually have, right, is that if you put it into, we have it here. Then I'm going to copy his, I'm going to copy his username. And I already have it on OpenSea.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually found a pretty innovative way of connecting addresses on Ethereum and addresses on Solana. So if you're tracking addresses already on Ethereum, maybe you can see if you can dig for their OpenSea username or for their ENS, and then see if you can find the corresponding address on Solana. So I think over time, as we port more labels, this would look a lot more interesting. You know, maybe you see like a fund here or like a smart money here, etc., etc. So I think it's something that we are actively working towards. So, you know, keep a lookout for that.
Mm-hmm. And
with that, I'll move on to NFT Paradise.
Actually, on that same thing, Darren, if you want to look at the profit leaderboard, I think we had a look earlier. It's not a big point to make, but it gives you an example of maybe like how these names can be helpful to work out who they are. If it is still there, is it not there anymore? It was maybe it's for a collection, but we saw one with Loom Dart, right? Where did we see that?
Oh, yeah, I think it was Mint Master.
Yeah, it's the Mint Master leaderboard.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, if you see there, it says Loom Dart on Magic Eden. Is that actually Loom Dart? Not sure. You'd have to do like a bit more research. But these type of things is where you can like start the journey on like working out who they are. And eventually, we'll have a lot more labels for Solana, so you can paint a better picture of what's going on. I want to find the Alameda wallets because obviously they are very interesting, and I want to find out what they're doing. So I'm sure we'll find that eventually. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Darren.
Yeah, that was good. All right, then just a quick, final overview of NFT Paradise. Who this is? Hi, looks interesting. Maybe we can take a look at this after office hours. But we do have Mint Masters here as well, and the market overview, which I think, I think what I would do, right, is I would actually have to just take a look at this like once a day, just to check how everything is changing in terms of both the volume and the average price, just to get a sensing of the overall the overall Solana NFT markets. How will you guys, sort of use this?
I think I've used it personally because the one that I like the most is those primates ones at the top, not the profit leaderboard, like just the standard market overview. So that they are, what are they? 6th one down now. So I'm watching them because I want to see what if the average price goes down. Because I'm a cheapo and I wanted to see if I could it. Because I feel like they've been that price for a while now. So I wanted to see if they go down a bit to buy. And also it's just interesting if you're coming into Solana like we have where you don't know too much, it's just really helpful to just have an overview to understand what the top collections are, because it's like so ingrained in our minds now what the top collections are on ETH, but I think it's far from that on Solana.
Yeah, that's true.
Alex, are you one of those few people that plays like multiple low ball bid across?
I don't do that because I don't like wrapping ETH and unwrapping it and stuff like this, but maybe I should do that. Yeah. Anything else on Solana NFTs?
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
Mhm.
I feel like there would be a pretty cool. I'm sure like given enough time or enough research, you come out with some sort of a ratio. You know how in financial modeling they have tons of ratios like market cap to volume and how it's changing over time. That might be some sort of signal. And I think what's special is that with the VIP access, you actually can download data daily. Yeah, but I think that would be something that I would want to explore more actually. Yeah, then I think that I have nothing else for Solana NFTs, and I'll hand it back to Alex.
Okay, yeah. So Nelson is going to go through. So if I introduce why we're going through it, it's just random. Yesterday, there was like a tweet put out, and like multiple tweets actually about. I'll put your screen on first. About. Yeah, here we go. About SHIB and like a big transaction. I'm not like dunking on that guy. It's completely fair enough. But he says, yeah, purchase of $200 million. So I was like, that doesn't seem right in this market. So I had a look. Yeah, and it was Binance to Binance. So I thought we'd have a look at, so why is Nansen helpful in these situations? Because initially you might feel like, oh my God, someone transferred from Binance to a fresh wallet or whatever wallet, what is going on? So if you just go onto Nansen, which I'm sure Nelson is going to show, you can then kind of work out from there. And as Nelson will also show, if you are interested in like these meme coins, because I see them popping up quite frequently now, for some reason. People must think it's almost time to start buying them. What are the signals that like you could look at if you want to do that? Because in the past, SHIB, when it had that insane run, if you were looking at Nansen before that, you could see a lot of smart money accumulation before it. So how do you use Nansen now in like this bearish conditions? You can use it to kind of see what people are accumulating, and especially for dog coins, where it's like, is there any reason? Mainly the reason is probably just like whales accumulating it and smart money accumulating it before it. So we are like the best place to do that. So yeah, Nelson, if you want to go through what you could kind of look at.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go to like the different areas you can look at, right? So Shiba is a token that I have a very close connection with because it was the token that actually made my first win on Nansen platform, right? So it's a token that I'll always remember, right? And I'll always check it out, right? See who is accumulating it, right? What are they doing with it? So if you go on to token God mode, right, which I'm already on here, right? I plug in the Shiba token, right? And if I scroll down to the very bottom, top transaction in the last 7 days, right? The tweet that Alex mentioned, right? The moving from Binance to some unknown wallet, as you can see here, right? So it's not labeled on Etherscan, right? So a lot of people would think, hey, something big is happening, right? But if you utilize Nansen to find out what is actually going on, you can see the same transaction here, right? So the 20 trillion, right, was actually Binance moving to one of their own wallet, right? So with data and more importantly, the labeling, it actually provides a lot more context, right? How you spend your resources, your time, right, to identify if something is worth looking into, right? The labels would actually help a lot, right? And in this particular context, right, it may seem that it's something significant, right? But if it's just moving from one wallet to another, right, then you probably not want to spend too much time, too much resources to dig into what is actually happening. So yeah, this is really to clarify that particular transaction that was happening and how you can actually use Nansen's labeling to identify what is worth looking into, what is not worth looking into.
I just want to mention, Nelson, like this is off topic, but it just came to my mind. I got a tweet, like someone added the main account, I replied to them in relation to like this Voyager situation that's going on. And then also all the other companies that have gone down. Someone said like, it would be cool if you could see all of this like action going on chain. And of course, I replied, you can do that on Nansen. So like, there's a good example. You can see Voyager wallets. So we have all of these wallets labeled. So in these times of everything like going wrong, you can kind of see it going wrong, or you can see the resolutions. Resolutions? I don't know if that's right. You can see the solutions on chain on Nansen, because we have all of these wallets labeled. And yeah, we could probably do like a whole episode looking at all of this. We probably should, but that's not for this one. But yeah, just thought I'd point it out because I saw it there. If you are trying to track all of these things going on, I think Nansen is the best platform that you can use for doing that. Yeah, back to SHIB.
Yeah, so you can see this particular Voyager wallet has received a ton of SHIB token, right? So probably they are trying to liquidate it, right? Move into main account and liquidate. Not really sure, but it's definitely something to continue monitoring, right? If we go back to token God mode, right? You go on to token distribution. You can see the smart money accumulation pattern, right? So one thing when dealing with data, right, as even on Nansen platform, right, is to have the inquisitive mind to investigate further, right? So if we look at the SHIB token being held by Smart Money, right, you can see even back in July last year, 1 year ago, right, the number of Smart Money wallets has pretty much plateaued, right? So there were not much new Smart Money, right? And if you look at the balance that were held by Smart Money, there was actually a steep drop here, right? And it basically flatlined, right? Does that mean that they're out of the position, right? Not necessarily, right? So one other thing you can do is really to go down to the top balances, right? So top balancer shows you pretty much any wallet, contract, exchanges that is holding huge supply of a particular token, in this case SHIB, right? So you can see there is actually a Shiba staking pool, right? So it'd be interesting to really look into who was actually staking, right? Was it the Smart Money that accumulated here, right? And are they most of it staked, or did they actually sold their token, right? So you can look into wallet profile for token on this particular staking contract, right? Click onto top depositor, right? And this will pretty much show you like what is the exposure from Smart Money in general, right? So I'm gonna filter by Smart Money, and you can see, right, we have quite a couple of smarter LP, right, with huge amount of SHIB tokens staked in the contract, right? So this is definitely something that we always want to look into, right? Don't just take the data on a surface level, but always, you know, dig deeper to find out where has this token gone to, right? Are they still holding it? What are they doing after that, right? And you eventually find out what they are doing with it and make a decision whether this is something that you want to gain exposure to or not. So one thing I'll really like to touch on here is actually using Smart Alert, right? So for example, right, after looking at all the data, right, doing your research, you decide that, hey, Shiba token is actually something that I want to gain exposure to in case the meme narrative takes off again, right? And you want to have a small exposure and you're staking it, right? So one very good way is really to make use of Smart Alert. And I can't emphasize this enough, the importance of Smart Alert. Honestly, in my opinion, the Smart Alert is one of the best, if not the best feature that you can find at Nansen, right? So one thing you can do, right, is in the address bar, right, you can actually use this function called from, and you can plug in the address, right? So here I have the contract address. I can just pull it. I can go back here from semicolon and plug in the address. So what this does is it sets up your defense mechanism, right? So if you are staking in it, any major withdrawal, you want to get notified on it, right? You want to know whether this big withdrawals are leading to major sell-off, right? Or is it just them moving into another wallet and they're putting into their custody, so on and so forth, right? So having this from function is really helpful, right? And the Smart Alert pretty much notify you instantly once the withdrawal happens, right? So you can set up any major amount, right? So say, for example, I can put in anything that is worth 500,000 or more, I want to get notified, right? And here I can put in the token, which is Shiba, right? And I choose how I want to get notified, Telegram, Discord, or Slack, So this gets me set up really well in terms of, hey, when I'm staking, right, I don't have to keep tracking all the time on what is happening, right? Am I missing any major catalyst, right? I just have to rely on the smart alert to tell me, hey, were there any major deposits that went into this particular staking pool, right? So that I can reassess my position, whether I want to add more, or were there any major withdrawals so that I can start trimming my position, right? So yeah, that I would say if you have not set up your smart alert, right, like after this office hour, make sure it's the first thing you do, right? Because it's really beneficial and you can capture move of major entities and so forth, which I'll talk about later, right? And that will get you set up pretty well in terms of tracking things that are happening on chain itself.
Yeah, I think it's like really important, smart alerts, especially for like the two things that we're trying to highlight, especially why you'd use Nansen in this time, of like protecting your position and seeing when people are accumulating. So you want to see when people are withdrawing from like staking pools to go sell or sending to exchanges, and then equally you want to see if they're taking money like off an exchange into a wallet, which hopefully means they're buying, or if they're just like increasing their holdings. So like if I give you an example, jump trading a few weeks back, maybe a month back now, I did that post saying like they put 120 mil onto an exchange. And then now, if you look at that same wallet, if you had like the smart alert set on them, so I follow Jump, they probably hate me. They sent money onto an exchange, and then now they own like 120 or million of ETH and wrapped Bitcoin. So like logic would tell you they probably use that money to buy that because they were sending ETH back to that wallet, swapping it for wrapped Bitcoin. So, and I think since then, like we had that move up. So these type of like transactions, big transactions from big entities, are really easy to find if you have smart alerts set up on them. And I think we might touch on it later, but they're really, really helpful as well for like NFTs. And maybe Nelson will mention you can use it to like see if multiple smart money people are minting NFTs as well. So for instance, I follow like art block collectors who with smart alerts who minted or bought really low on like Fidenzas and ringers, and I try and see, okay, what are they minting nowadays, because they clearly know what kind of art will do well. So yeah, they're super, super helpful. I think especially in times of like downturn.
Yeah, since we're on that and we're on the smart alert page, I'll just walk through this feature, right? So if you go under smart alert, right, there is actually an option to select the alert type, right? You can select the simple, right, which pretty much allows you to select any label that you want to look at, right? So say for example, if you want to look at movement by funds in general, just select the fund label, right? But in this case, we are looking at NFTs, right? So I can select smart minter, right, and see what the smart minter are doing, right? So that's one way you can capture it, right? The other way is through the advanced feature, right? So if you do it the simple way, you will get a lot of notifications, right? And not all the collections are having, say, for example, 10, 15, 20 smart minter, right? So that is where the advanced feature or advanced alert really comes in handy. So if I go on to the activity type, I can select I can select NFT minting, right? And under alert filter, this is where things gets interesting. So under total smart minter in an hour, I can actually select the number I want, right? So I don't want to receive any alert unless there are 15 different smart money minters that minted in the last hour, right? Or you can lower the threshold if you want to. You can select 10, right? Depending on how much noise you want to get versus signal, right? You can play around with it, and it also changes according to market scenario, right? So if we are in a super NFT bull market, right, then you probably want to set this a lot higher because a lot of smart money are probably risk on, right? So you can set this for say 20 or 25, so on and so forth, right? But in the current market condition, right, you can probably set it at say 7 or 10, right? And once this criteria fulfills, right, you can then receive a notification, right? So this is a very good way of managing your minting activity, right? So you don't get distracted, hop onto your Discord all the time to check out the notification, right? But you clean it up a lot more, right? In terms of filtering out the noise and only look at things that fulfill, for example, this 10 smart minter in the last hour before I decide to look at the notification or even thinking of minting it.
I think that's like a really powerful signal as well, because I spoke to JG last episode, who's Smart Money, and he mentioned to me that so he made a lot off of goblins and has done well on these free mints. And he mentioned it's because he's in these alpha groups, which I'm sure is just filled with other smart money. Because once you make all that money, you can just find other rich people. But once you if you get a trigger then to see okay, 10 of these people are minting these NFTs now, then it's a very powerful signal to understand, okay, maybe you should be as well. Rather than just one NFT, because one smart minter, sorry, because then they might just be going off rogue, or they just like the look of it or something like that. So having multiples also makes your Discord less noisy or whatever you're using, but also is a much more powerful signal to understand, is this an NFT that's worth minting? If you want to watch that episode as well, sorry, watch that one.
Yeah,
That's
go ahead.
really, really good. Actually spoke to someone who's labeled as Smart Money, and it gave really good advice. Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly jump in there because I think another way to look to do it, because I think there's the trader wallet address field. If you scroll down, so you can input specific addresses. So I think I think Nelson actually has a thread on this, of how to create your own alpha groups. And it depends, right? So I think you generally want to start with an idea. So maybe you can think something you can assume or say that, okay, most likely the people that minted loot, they have a Telegram group, and then that's how they started, right? So how do you can't, obviously you're not going to be able to hack Telegram or get into that group. But the next closest thing you can do actually is to go on chain and see who minted loot very early on, and who minted a lot of loot. And I think by doing those two things, and you can actually set a signal for what the group is talking about, if you put those addresses into the smart alert. Yeah, I thought that's something that is pretty interesting to look at actually.
Yeah, I think this is something that I talked about in one of the previous office hour, right? Trying to really test out the different theses, right, and test out the different wallet addresses, right, and you can then set a smart alert, right, and understand, hey, what is actually happening, who are the top holders, right, what are they doing, right? If you go on to breakdown, right, there is always, whether is it on token side or NFT side, you always have this top balances table, right? So that's where you really identify, hey, who are the people that is holding a huge chunk of a particular wallet for a particular NFT collection, right? You can then plug them into your smart alert, right, and say, hey, I only want to look at minters or trader for this particular group of addresses. Then it sort of streamlines your work process, right? They might not be active for a period of time, right? But you can test out different groups and see which are the ones that are profitable for you, which are the ones that falls into your sort of budget range in terms of what they are minting or what they are buying, right? And over time, you will actually start curating a group of people that you have high conviction on, right? So when you reach that point, right, it's always a journey in between, from curating your own list, testing out different phases, right? And you have to adjust accordingly. Some of them have new addresses, right? Some of them continue using the existing one, and that is how you actually get to a point where you have your own set of alpha, right? And this is only for your eyes only, right? And you build your conviction that way, in a way. So yeah, I think Smart Alert is definitely one of the more underrated feature on Nansen, right? I'll reiterate again, right? If you have not gotten your Smart Alert to set up, right? Whether you are looking at funds, smarter LP, smart NFT trader, smart NFT minter, whichever strategy that you want to deploy, right? It will always be beneficial if you set up your Smart Alert, whether is it for discovery of projects or for defending your position, right? And I can show you one way you can actually go about it. So if I go back to the alert type simple, right? And I select token type all, which pretty much covers your ERC20 token as well as your NFT. Right? I'll select the event type as transaction token transfer. Under the entities earlier, Alex mentioned Jump, right? So you can either search entities by their name. So for example, if I want to look at Jump, right, I can just search Jump, right? One other way you can actually test out different theses is actually looking at exchanges, right? So for example, Binance, right, Coinbase, FTX, so on and so forth. So basically major exchanges, right? And you can set the threshold. Say for example, if they are receiving 500,000 worth of a particular token, right, you receive a notification. So what this sets you up is you're able to test whether a major move to a particular exchange, right, that are not listed on their exchange yet, right, is there any possibility that it gets listed down the road, right? So is that accumulation them preparing to list the token so that they have the supply to allow trading to happen, right? Or is it them doing it for their own exposure, so on and so forth, right? So this is definitely one areas you can actually test it out, right? So it really boils down to how creative you can get, right? Looking at different labels, different entities, what are things that you can test, and once you really start to find your sort of what you're looking for, right, you then start to build that high conviction in terms of what you're getting in terms of notification, what you're getting in terms of the movement that is happening to, say, for example, a particular exchange, right? Is it something that I'm going to aid immediately once they start accumulating, right? Or do I wait and see what is going on first?
Yeah. Do we want to close off the SHIB part just by looking? I don't know if you still got it at that wallet that bought like 1,000 and then now has like, or had billions. I think it was like 1,000 to 5 billion, something ridiculous. And they still now own like $100 million of SHIB, which seems to me kind of crazy. I feel like I would have gone off into the sunset a long time ago. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see that they still own a lot of it. And on Nansen, you can see how easily you can see what they've been doing with it as well.
Yeah, I think it's this particular one. Yeah, if I do a wallet profile for token, I can see his previous balance, right? How many tokens was he holding previously versus now, right? So you can see a huge drop, right? From Jan last year, right? They were holding a huge ton of token, right? I'll zoom in for you, right? And now they're holding significantly lesser, right? So these are all things that are happening on chain, and once you know what to look out for, I think it comes pretty intuitively, right? And yeah, you just have to follow the track and get to the end of it, right? And see what they're actually doing with their tokens itself.
This person is actually just a very good person to be following anyway, because it's not like we think it's just an individual. So it's not someone who's necessarily has any reason to hold. I'm not really sure why they're still holding. So they could dump at like any time, and 100 million is a lot of money, which will definitely have an effect. So it's someone, again, you could probably set on a smart alert if you're interested in buying SHIB, but you're like a bit scared, as we probably all are, of buying it. Then that's probably someone to watch. Yeah, because it's like an individual who doesn't really have any reason to hold, so it's a bit of a dangerous one for you. But an amazing story and an amazing example of like why it's important to see what people are buying, kind of no matter what the coin is, even if it's a weird dog coin like it was when he first bought it, or he or she first bought it, and has now made tons and tons of money. At one point, yeah, worth billions from like $1,000 or something. Completely ridiculous. So the opportunity is there, and especially like the risk reward seems quite good as long as you're seeing like good statistics to buy it. Because like 1,000 lost or a billion made, I know it's a bit of a fantasy, but you can see that it's possible because it's happened. So yeah.
Have either you or Darren bought any meme coin, any dog token before?
Yes. I bought
for me.
just recently I bought like only like $100 of some stupid coin. I'm not going to tell people because one, I don't want them to buy it because it's probably going to zero, and two, it's probably embarrassing. So yeah, I'll keep that one secret, but it was because I saw other people buying, so maybe you can figure that out.
It's embarrassing until it makes you a millionaire.
Yeah. Come back to me in 2 years when I'm a multi-billionaire from that $100. No, that's not going to happen. It's going to go to zero. But I thought, whatever, I'll buy some. But I have to say, I resisted them all last year. Huge mistake. 2021 was like such a good time for dog coins, obviously, especially at the start with Doge and then SHIB later on in the year. I just refused to buy it because it was stupid. But as I was talking to these two earlier, I think you can't underestimate narratives in crypto, even more than utility. I don't want to point out any names, but if you look at the top 10, there's some coins in there that probably shouldn't be in there based off utility. So I think it shows the power of utility, power of narrative, and power of strong followings. So yeah, I faded dog coins to my huge financial expense. Yeah. Nelson, where's your dog coins? Are you buying any?
Not anymore though, but I actually would like to get back into it because I think the meme narrative it's really obvious. Like when a meme takes off, that nothing makes sense, right? We can see that in the whole Shiba, Doge, even in NFT space, right? NFTs that have no utility pumping to 3 ETH, 5 ETH, right? And it's just the culture, right? Like you have a group of people that are huge believer, right? And they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, right? And it takes off, right? So it's something that I wouldn't bet against, right? But at the same time, if I do bet, I wouldn't bet like my entire life saving on it.
I think there's a question in the chat that I'll answer in a second as well, but I think there's an interesting point to be made now. Like, have NFTs just replaced dog coins though? That's what I'm a bit confused about, because the whole like degenerate side of dog coins is like you don't have to spend any time thinking about them. You just buy it because it looks cool or you like the dog. But now, if you you want to be degenerate and you're investing, you like something that looks cool, surely you're probably just going to buy an NFT nowadays. And like SHIB last year had this big run up, partly because it had a lot of hype on like TikTok, people dancing about SHIB, but now people are probably going to be dancing about whatever, some NFT. So I don't know the place of dog coins anymore. Before they were there for like people that are really casual investors want to have fun, but has that now moved to like low cost free mints, stuff like this? So I think it'll be interesting to see if dog coins actually have any life after this. I'm sure they'll still do semi well, but will we see these crazy run ups anymore when all the money can actually go to NFTs? I'm not sure. I think it's interesting to see next cycle, especially for Doge. I wonder about Doge. I'm not sure if it has a life anymore. I'm probably going to get hate for that, but I'm not sure about it.
I wouldn't bet against Doge.
Yeah, that's true.
They're just one
Doge
trade away from
Ellen,
a
right?
moon back.
Yeah.
Maybe Doge will be the one that survives, but like these Husky coins and stuff, would you just buy an NFT nowadays? I don't know. I think that's the cool thing about this market. Like once we recover, hopefully we recover, we will be able to see like what comes out of it. And I think a lot of things that were here before probably won't be anymore. Someone asks a question I think is good. What is the difference between an exchange deposit address and an exchange address? I like this question. I don't know if I'm going to answer it the most technical way. So like you deposit your money into the exchange deposit address, like you've put Gemini deposit, and then that basically correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, that will then automatically get sent to the actual exchange. So normally on Nansen, you'll see like Nansen Intern deposits onto Binance Deposit. That Binance Deposit sends the funds to Binance. So it's just like a 2-in-1 move. Is that a good explanation?
Yeah. I think that's mostly right. It's just that I think different exchanges have different, how do I put it, different ways of working. Some exchanges, for example, get you to stick to one deposit always, while other exchanges will provide a fresh deposit every time you want to deposit stuff. There are certain cases whereby tokens remain in the deposit address, but that's normally when the value is pretty nominal and it's not worth the gas fee or something like that. I believe most exchanges have automated way of, when they detect that they receive funds in the deposit, they automatically forward it to the main wallet. Yeah, so I think that's like the gist of it. Interestingly enough, when I was trying to, when I knew people that were trying to pursue exchange listing alpha, a lot of them tried to watch exchange deposits to see if there's any new tokens being deposited. And it became pretty crazy. Like then what people would do, right, is that they would send tokens to the deposit on purpose just to make it look like there's a listing and get people to ape into it. So it became very PvP and very crazy. But that was, I think that was a few months back, I think, or maybe late last year, if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. They also said, why do exchanges like Binance move funds between various wallets? I'm guessing one reason is just safety. I don't know honestly why they do that. I probably should know that. All I know is that they do. Like Coinbase moves money across wallets loads and loads of times, across a lot of fresh wallets as well. Do either of you have a good explanation on why they actually do that, like technically?
I don't. Maybe Darren would have.
Unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer for that also. I think to be very honest, I think exchanges do a lot of stuff across their main wallets. For example, like Alex mentioned, Coinbase, sometimes they just send tokens to fresh wallets, etc. So no real answer. Could be a mix of security, as well as liquidity, etc. Yeah, but we don't really know exactly why.
Yeah, I would just guess that it's like, so you have whatever it's called, I don't know the technical, it's like multiple vectors of safety. That is definitely not what you call it, but like let's say one wallet got hacked and it had like hundreds of millions in, or like billions in, then it's obviously not a great situation. If you then disperse that across various wallets, then your risk is a lot lower of like getting the seed phrase for that wallet and whatever. But there'll probably be a better answer for you that isn't going to come from us because we don't know. But
I think it's mainly more operational, right? Like if we fall back to the thesis where exchange would have a deposit wallet for people to deposit their funds, right? And you expect people to be sending a lot of different tokens because it's catered for a lot of different people. So it's very hard for them to track like their supply of a particular token, right? So I think once it gets to a sizable amount, they would then move into one central location or a central wallet to house all the different tokens. So it's easier for them to track as well. If not, you will have like 5 Shiba token in this wallet, 10 Shiba token in the other deposit wallets and so forth. And it basically gets scattered all over the place. And it's just an operation nightmare.
Someone mentions, very good question, because that's exactly what we were going to look at next. Are the .eth domains, the ENS domains, ramping up? Have we got a chart of them on Nansen? So Darren, I know you were going to look at this. Is your screen ready or no?
Yeah.
I'll share your screen.
There. So I think the last thing I wanted to cover was the NFT, just random collections, but we can look at ENS. I think that's a good question. And we do actually have both the total number of ENSs existing, as well as how many addresses, like actual addresses owning ENSs. So I'm just going to let it load a little bit. So I think as of right now, there's about 1.6 million ENSs around. Although bear in mind that addresses could have multiple ENSs. For example, for some reason, the zero address has a lot of ENSs that people send over. I'm not sure why exactly, but that was something interesting. And we go to hodlers. As of now, I would say there is on Ethereum. Yeah, I mean, obviously on Ethereum, there's about 450,000 addresses with ENSs. I think the only variable that you want to consider, I mean, firstly, like the growth has been fantastic, but the only variable you want to consider is that some people might have been sidebilling the ENS airdrop. So maybe you want to discount this by 5-10%. Although what I would do, right, if I want to guesstimate the total like actual number of ENSs used by real life human beings, maybe I'll guesstimate and say that 10-15% of the ENSs were SHIBs. And maybe if the airdrop happened in, I can't remember exactly, maybe September, then I would say maybe 10 to 20% of these addresses were SHIBs. Then I would minus like 20,000. So minus 20,000, 80,000. So I'll minus 20,000 from here. And then the actual like population of ENSs would be 450 minus 20. As in, that's one way I would approach it, if I'm interested to understand the growth and population of ENSs across the chain. Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool, like, if we could get more data on ENS. I think we maybe underestimated how like big it would become, or at least it would become so quickly. So I know like maybe other platforms or Gem, at least when you go to buy them, you can like filter by digits or name or whatever. So I'm sure that we'll add that, because I know there's like all this hype on 3-digit numbers, 4-digit numbers. So if we had like individual statistics on them, I think that would be great. Hopefully we'll be adding them eventually.
It's interesting as well because you can see from here, right, based on the volume spikes. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but a while back, actually, I wouldn't say people tried to force it, but there was a 3 or 4-digit ENS about 1 month ago, right? Like some sort of community or narrative going on. And I guess it didn't quite work out, or maybe it did, right? But we see like a resurgence of this narrative. So like, then there are some things that, that you can dig further using the platform, such as who benefited the most from this pump? Were there people that were scooping up interesting ENSs during this period, etc.? Something that I felt was cool, like, oh shit, it's 889. I think 10 minutes ago, this was 888. And 888 in Chinese actually is a very lucky number. So I actually went to check out 888.eth, and apparently the last selling price was like 30 ETH. So I thought this is definitely a very cool phenomenon. And I think, Alex, you're right. Like having more data for this would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Are you gonna buy it, Darren?
I'll probably only be able to afford the 888.eth.
Actually, as well, I put a graph out. So if you go down, or we don't have to look at it on overview, there's that one for like transactions, and like classic me. Okay, I put the tweet out saying, "Oh, do you remember when everyone thought ENS names were like the best asset ever?" And then about 2 days later, all of this like craziness happened, and now transactions are back up.
Shit.
So, yeah, you can blame me or thank me for.
Thank you. I think it's thank you.
Yeah, dunking on them, because now they're doing really well. And I just saw it actually. Like, look at the volume; it's higher than it was back then as well now. So I'm down bad for that. I actually own some ENS names that I completely forgot about. I had a look last night. I was like, oh, I actually own like some okay ones. No numbers though, which I'm upset about. But yeah, do you two own any numbers, or are you missing out like me?
I used to own a 4-digit.
Yeah.
During the first wave, and there was a 10K club Discord, but I people-handed it. I sold it like a day or two later.
Yeah, they're worth like, off the top of my head, I think the 3 digits are worth like 50 grand each or something, maybe more. And maybe it's the 4-digit ones that are worth 50 grand. I can't remember. Something completely insane. But I have to say, like, obviously I put that tweet out. I'm like very happy for these people that like bought these, because the people that bought these numbers had a lot of conviction in them, and I always like seeing that. So people that had conviction in something they continue to hold it, and now they're like profiting. As long as they actually sell, like sometimes you have to remember that, yeah, it's worth a lot, but have you sold it? But also don't listen to me because it'll probably go to like 1 million ETH. But yeah, consider sometimes if you should sell. But yeah, I quite like this whole pump, despite me making a tweet about it against it. So yeah, I think it's cool to see anyway. I like the whole like Web3 narrative type thing. I don't necessarily get the numbers thing other than them being rare and these clubs, but I like to see it. And I've just realized that we're at 1 hour. I have no idea how that's happened. But yeah, we are going to have to finish then. So yeah, let me do an outro. I can't even ask you if you want to say anything because we've got no time. Okay, so, that is a wrap for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I think it was a good one. Spoke about like some different topics than maybe normal. We never talk about dog coins and rarely talk about ENS, so hopefully it was good. If you did enjoy it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on your notifications, try Nansen Lite for free. Someone mentioned that the link wasn't working. I put a link in the chat and I'll update that after this anyway. But yeah, you can try Nansen Lite for free. If it's not working, I'll update it. Thank you all for joining. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Next week, actually, we've got a really cool episode. It's me and someone from X2Y2, someone on their team. So yeah, we're going to be talking about NFTs and the rise of X2Y2, and they've been doing very well recently. So make sure you come back next week and watch that. Thank you both for joining. Thank you everyone for listening, and bye-bye.
Thank you. See you guys.